Hello. Today we will be talking about the culture of Pakistan and strategies to teach Pakistani students. I'm Harrison Stein,
Hi, I'm Tammy.
and here we go. So, to start, I thought I'd orient everybody to Pakistan and the geography. So, here's a little test. Put your cursor over Pakistan. And there it is, outlined in red on the map on the left. And then you can see on the map on the right where Pakistan is. And I just wanted to orient everybody a little bit. So to the west is Iran and Afghanistan. To the north is China and Turkmenistan or Tajikistan. And to the east is India. So a lot of different cultural influences on the country itself. And that'll come up as in why it's a very diverse culture. Okay. So let's start by talking about the flag. So here we have the Pakistani flag, and on the left is a white strip, and that white strip represents the non-Muslim portion of Pakistan. So you can see it's not the focus, but it is there, so it's a present. And then the green represents the Muslim portion with the star and crescent being typical symbols of the Muslim faith. The star represents light and knowledge, while the crescent represents progress. And here we have when Pakistan became independent as a nation, 1947. But I just wanted to highlight it has a very rich history with its roots dated back to the Indus Valley, one of the ancient civilizations of the world, one of the oldest, most ancient, there we go. But then it was controlled by multiple different empires that came in, Empire of the Greek, Mauryan, and Mughal, and then finally the British, where they eventually declared independence. And I like Pakistan's Zindabad, the picture, because it has that forget the time of distress, but never forget what they taught you. And I think that kind of embodies potentially the spirit of the kind of country itself. They have a lot of pride in their country, and they've had a lot of empires rule over them, but now they are independent and very proud. And so this is a cool map on the right where it talks about all the different cultural maps, so cultural areas of Pakistan. So all those different cultures. The main part is I wanted to say that you could see they're very different. Maybe as different as the Northwest is from the Southeast of the U.S. The Punjabi culture in the East, the Balochi culture in the West, so all sorts of different things. And the official language is Urdu, although 10% of Pakistani people speak Urdu, about 30% in the US speak it. The unofficial languages are English, Punjabi, Baluchi, and Sindhi. And Punjabi is maybe the one that's interesting for teachers of Pakistani immigrants because about 50% of Pakistani immigrants teach or know Punjabi. And a common greeting that you might want to use is just Salam Alaikum, which is just kind of hello in the Muslim faith. And now we get to talk about food. So on the upper left, you see the symbol for halal food, and that's their biblical, or not biblical, sorry. That's the Quran's guidelines of how to eat. And it outlined pork is not allowed, and there's some other meats and foods that aren't allowed. And biblically, or at least in Judaism, kosher was used as a way to stay healthy, so that could be similar. I'm not going to talk about too much because I don't know a lot about it. But in Pakistani culture, on the upper right, we see some kebabs, and they look delicious. I wanted to talk about how Pakistan is very heavy on the meats compared to surrounding areas. And those look like delicious kebabs if you eat meat. And on the lower right, you have naan from the Peshawari region, which is one of the regions on the eastern side, coastal India. And then on the lower left, you have some sheer kurma, which is milk with dates. It's a festive breakfast and dessert, and it's actually also a religious meal. It's prepared on Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adhan. And I'm sorry if I botch how you pronounce that. The next slide is the first democratically elected president of Pakistan, and that is Benazir Bhutto. And as you can see, she is a woman, which is really cool. So the quotation is, "The government I led gave ordinary people peace, security, dignity, and opportunity to progress." And you might look at that as kind of the not the embodiment, but some of the ideals that Pakistani immigrants might have when they move to the U.S. They're looking for the peace, security, and dignity, and then just the ability to gain more and to move forward in the world. So next slide. And here we have a map that shows where the Pakistani people are distributed in the U.S. Before we go to the map, if you look at the upper right, it has the U.S. Census identified 380,000 Pakistanis in the U.S. However, the Pakistan Embassy suggested that it's probably closer to 700,000. So whatever reasons that might be, that's something important to know. And the most popular areas for Pakistani people is New York City metro, so New York City, New Jersey, the surrounding areas, and California. And California was the first wave of Pakistani immigrants, and they mostly moved west into California for agricultural work and logging, with some also working on the railroad. And we'll get to the Pakistani community in Seattle later. So the next slide. So on the x-axis, we have time. So these are years started 1947, going up by 10 years until present day. And on the y-axis, we have population, started at 0, going all the way to 400,000. And you can see from 1947 to 1967, the U.S. did not have a very friendly immigration policy. However, so about 2,400 were in 1967, and then after that, just skyrocketed all the way up to present day, 380,000. And it looks like, according to this graph, that it'll keep on going. The next slide. And here I wanted to talk about these two organizations. So the one on the left is the Pakistani Association of Greater Seattle, and on the one on the right is the Citizens Foundation. And these are two organizations that have Seattle chapters, and the Pakistani Organization of Greater Seattle, or PAGS, brings together the Pakistani community, and that's their. They're also a political organization. They work on promoting the interests of Pakistan in our community. And the Citizens Foundation, their sole mission is to fundraise and build and operate schools in different regions of Pakistan. And some interesting things about at least Pakistan's in Seattle is that most move to Seattle for tech-related jobs. However, Pakistan is the third leading source of. I'm sorry. It's I'm in the library. I'm sorry. It's the third largest group of medical researchers. Third largest source of international medical graduates in the world, and most of those people leave Pakistan because they can get better pay elsewhere. And the consulate in the U.S. says that 60 to 70 out of 100 Pakistani immigrants will be white-collar workers. And there are approximately 1,000 families in Seattle, so if we extrapolate, that's probably closer to 4,000 or 5,000 people if we include each family has a couple kids. And yeah, the last thing I wanted to touch on was that 4% of Pakistani's GDP is from people sending money back to Pakistan, so it's a very family-oriented culture. And now Tammy will take it away and talk about strategies for teaching.
Yes, great. Thank you, Hank. So as we know, there are a few social norms that are visible and invisible. And so the first visible norm that I wanted to address in Pakistan is that students remain in their homerooms and teachers rotate throughout the class. And so a suggestion that we have for teachers is that, so talk about that when we are talking, that is addressed when we talk about the bell schedule, if you're teaching secondary to secondary education. And another thing is that you can assign a mentor classmate to help a student during passing period. Some other invisible norms is that the teacher-student relationship, where it's very formal in Pakistan. There's no joking. It's a serious place to be in class. And so something to contrast that is sharing a little bit about yourself as a teacher, and then definitely incorporating teacher-student relationships in your classroom agreements at the beginning of the school year. Another thing is fighting. So fighting is definitely prohibited in Pakistani schools, but students may not understand the severity of the consequences. And so in that sense, it's just, again, talking about what it's like within that school. And so incorporating it into the classroom agreements, and then have it written so that you can refer back to it and your students can refer back to it. Another invisible norm is mixed gender socializing. So in co-education systems, students may go to field trips together, go to lunch together, but oftentimes do not socialize with the opposite gender. And so our suggestion for you is to, at the beginning of the year, create an introductory questionnaire where some questions could look like, where do you learn best in the classroom? So a student can answer in the front or the back of the room, in the middle of the room, and then just ask questions on what kind of environment or what could they be their best self as a student. And then also vocalizing the option to move seats if they do feel uncomfortable. Something that may or may not happen is home visits. And when entering someone's home, it's really important to respect their space. And so a part of a home etiquette is giving gifts, just like a small gifts to the hostess in terms of like flowers or chocolate. Men should avoid giving flowers to women. And if in a situation where he does, then he should say it's from his wife, his sister, his mother, his coworker at school. And then another thing is, do not give white flowers because that's a sign for a wedding. On the right side is, I got from someone's Twitter page, and it's a nonprofit organization that emphasizes primary education, like alternative primary education. And it's an organization where they highly emphasize holistic learning in terms of incorporating the students and the families to be involved with this education. So whether you're in their home or in their classroom, it's important to know how to introduce yourself to family members. And so in Pakistan, oftentimes when you introduce your name, it's an identifier of who your what family you come from, your status. And then another thing is, Pakistanis really prefer to work with people that they trust and know, so building a relationship is really important. So an example would be, hello, Miss Ahmed. I am Qazi Hussein's science teacher. I have been working here for 3 years and genuinely enjoy Zaki Hussein being in my classroom. He's a great leader among peers and also always has an energetic mood to learn. He's a real pleasure to have in my class. So then again, I am introducing myself in my association. So I'm his teacher and I've been working here for this amount of years. And then also just like any personal notes about you that you would like to share. Pakistanis also speak in a roundabout way. So really trying to avoid saying no or I cannot do something. That's only something that's only you could only said in a relationship that's already been built. And so alternative thing is saying, I will try my best. Ramadan is one of the holidays that is celebrated in Pakistan. It's a Muslim holiday, and you abstain eating and drinking from dawn to dusk the entire month. And so the intent is to be closer to God and to remind themselves that the suffering of those who are less fortunate. Fasting is a part of self-restraint, and it is a way of detoxifying yourself. It also is said that avoid food and drinks is not enough. And so people should abstain from sexual intercourse, engaging in road rage, cursing, fighting, and gossip during the day of that month. And so this year, Ramadan is happening as we speak. And if you can see to this side, the bottom right, in the future years, Ramadan will be happening in school during the school year. So just be mindful of that time, and those who are celebrating Ramadan, be careful of not asking too physical tasks, because they're going to, so they're not worn out, and just be mindful that they're not eating from dawn to dusk. And so, and the impact of how a student might feel in their mood throughout the day. So through my research, there were just two phenomenal people that I would like to highlight. On the left is Nagar Nazar, and she is the first woman cartoonist in Pakistan. She uses her art to address sexual harassment, child abuse, education. And so the top comic says, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown. And Jill, wait a minute. Why should I come tumbling after? And so she is a very radical woman who believes and advocates in women's rights, and especially girls in education. And to the right is Malala Yousafzai, and she is the youngest Nobel Peace Prizer. She is also an advocate for education. She has an amazing upbringing, an amazing story. And so she has her own book and her own documentary that we highly suggest. And these are just two people who have stood out in our research and that we wanted to highlight. So this concludes the end of our presentation. Thank you so much. And then a part of it will have some films and books and artists that you all can check out. Great. Thank you.